And we are live. Thank you for joining us here on Let's Talk Real Talk on Parental Alienation, domestic violence, and the family court system here in Canada on October 14th, 2025. We have a special guest today from the US. We have Robert Garza, who is a nationally recognized advocate for parental rights and family court reform. After enduring 43 false CPS allegations in a 15-year custody battle, Robert turned his personal adversity into a mission for justice. Wow, that's truly amazing. And as a co-executive producer, I stand with John and a featured advocate in the We the Parents. Robert raises awareness and drives changes national-wide. Well, today he just went international, right?
I did.
Yeah, we got lots to talk about, but Robert Garza is a proven leader in advocacy work. He does legislation impact, he has national reach, media presence, supports the Family Equality Bill stack. And he's going to talk about all these. He's done time taken back. 3 strikes law is what he has now implemented across the US, and he has brought it into a few places here in Canada, which we are very proud of. Not too many people know because we need to keep advertising. Justice delayed is justice denied. Cameras in the courtroom, so Robert Garza supports cameras, just like how we are fighting to pass this law with our Attorney General Doug Downey here in, well, not law, but for parents that are in family courts to see, that have transcripts and everything for transparency and accountability is really important in our family court system today. And also, Robert has child support dual calculation reform. There's so much that Robert Garza has done. And we are so impressed and grateful to have you come and step into our part of the world from what you are experiencing right now in the US, losing all these, systems for healthcare, childcare, and all that. Truly grateful for you to stand up and keep helping people. So, Robert, as you know, false allegations is the number one reason why we lose our children. And for people to fight these false allegations, it takes a lot of nerve, a lot of evidence, and a lot of patience. But what if people lose their lives and stuff? I want you to put out there for our viewers to hear your perspective on all this.
Sure. Well, thanks for the great introduction. First of all, thanks for having me on the show. I had to learn civil law, criminal law, constitutional law just to understand what's going on in our family courts, and that's national and international. And it's a big problem. It's not just one state or one country. This is a global issue, and it's a human rights issue. When you start taking parental rights and parents and children away from kids on a precaution, and we're talking about false allegations here, it's a human rights issue, and one that shouldn't be stepped on without having a heightened standard of evidence. And that's a lot of the problem that we're seeing in these family courts right now.
Right. And how do we get to do like the changes that we need so that, us uneducated people, we don't fall into it?
Yeah. So I can go through, to alienate a child, and that's when a child is rejecting the other parent. It is not natural for a child to do this. Even an abused child won't turn on a parent. If you don't believe me, look at, people in prison, stuff like that. Children still go see them and whatever, or, Child Protective Services come over and they're like, oh, I fell down the stairs or something, right? Children naturally protect their parents unless it's alienation. Only in alienation do they reject them. And you literally have to get that child away from a person for around 30 days. And if you can do that, you have time to brainwash them, manipulate them, alienate them, and it's not good because it splits that child in half. Like if you're an adult and you go through this, knowing the pain and suffering that you go through, it's literally like you're grieving the loss of a living child, like that child is dead. It's day in and day out grief. At least in death, it's final, there's nothing else, but it's day in and day out. And so if it's that painful for an adult, it's that even more painful for a child. And you can convince a child that Santa Claus is real, the Easter Bunny is real, the Tooth Fairy is real. What makes people think that you can't convince a child that, dad's bad or mother's bad or something like that? And that's where that alienation comes in. And so separating them for 30 days is where the big issue is. And with the time taken, time back, if somebody makes a false allegation, when they return the child after that allegation's been ruled out, or there's no finding of abuse or neglect, when you return the child, you shall return the time and the same type of time and the same exact amount of time. In doing so, it stops people from making false allegations, but not real allegations. And it gives you enough time to repair that parental bond that was taken by the court by precaution.
Right. So these false allegations are going to be like embedded into the child's head for the rest of their life, basically, if they don't get help. And the help that they're getting out there is at its minimal because the family courts don't care about them, especially once the kids are opted out after 18. They're on their own. They're out there on the streets suffering with no support. They feel bad that they did what they did to their other parent and they're scared to go see them. I mean, this is just so wrong for our kids.
Yeah, well, a lot of these things are generational chains. And someone, there wasn't a mother or a father in that person's life that's weaponizing this. And another part is most of these people that are doing this to their children have mental issues. And that's where a lot of this stems from. So it's a mental health thing. And so where do you stop that? Well, you stop it by not letting it happen in the first place. So if you have a court order and it says you have the kids every first, third, and fifth weekend and every Thursday, and someone is withholding the children, then it's actually in the US, I'm not sure about Canada, but it's actually a felony. You can go to jail and be arrested the first time you withhold. The problem is they're not adhering to that. And so because of it, we call it grand jury bait. You give it to the grand jury, but then they don't know why the parent, if they were being a protective parent or an abusive parent by doing this. So what I've done is I've written bills in all 50 states to take that felony to be 2 misdemeanors before the felony. I call it the 3 strikes law.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives a parent, a protective parent, enough time, instead of getting arrested the first time, they can actually take that child to a therapist or child protective services to get help if there really is being abused, if there is abuse present. Now, instead of being arrested the first time. And so they can do that the first time, the second time, but the third time they will be arrested for interfering. So it's perfect for protective parents. And it's also perfect for parents that are being children being weaponized against another parent because they're mad and they don't want them to have, visitation. So when the cop comes out, he'll give a ticket the first time, $500, second time, another $500, third time, it's an arrest and a felony. Now, that's criminal. You can also take it to civil court and file an enforcement, but that's going to cost you $3,000 to $5,000 to get an attorney, a couple of months, probably weeks to months to get into there, and then the judge may or may not have to rule on the case for a while. I did it, and I did it both ways. I went criminal and civil. The criminal route took 6 months. I made a police report, went to a detective in the youth division. The detective gave it to the DA after they found probable cause, and the DA gave it to the grand jury to indict or not indict. That took 6 months. I also did civil, which I said, get a grant, get an attorney and do that process. To even get a court date, it took me 6 months in family court. Then after we got the day in court, the judge took 6 months to rule on the case. That is a massive issue with all of these, with all of this. So the 3 strikes, if you think about it, The first $500 fine is on, let's just say you have every first, third, and fifth weekend, and then every Thursday. Thursday would be the first $500 fine. Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the second period of possession. That would be the second $500 fine. The third one would be that following Thursday. So literally, this is taken care of in a week.
Wow. You know, had this happened to me 20 years ago when I was alienated due to false allegations, I went to prison. And, you know, that was hard on the kids because they were the ones that were told to lie to the police. Now, police are opted to believe the children, but when they don't investigate and they see the fear in the children's eyes, they should know that these kids are being coached. So we need to educate these police officers as well to, you know, when they go get a call and say, look, this one alienated my child, but that child's already on their own schedule with equal shared parenting, basically. But that other parent will call and claim something because it's not their time. They're trying to interfere with the other parent's time. So the police will literally take the child from that parent who has the time and give them back to the custodial parent, which there should not be custodial. They both should be 50, you know, they
I
both
understand what you're
have,
saying.
they made the children, right?
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
should have
So
equal rights. And, you know, when they were together, everything was all lovey-dovey and all that. The father would take the child on a day trip, or the mother would take the child. What makes them any different after a divorce? Because, you know, they were responsible then, they'll still be responsible if you do get responsible parents. But when they have the mental health issues, now that's a different story, right?
yes.
So how do we differentiate that to a judge and to the police? Like they
So
always say, we're claiming false allegations. There you go. You just want them arrested because they had you arrested first. This is the reasoning of the police. Because I've been
so
there and
So right now, the police can arrest someone for interfering the first time. That's
first
the whole
time.
reason behind this bill, is because it gives protective parents 3 different times a week, literally, that they can go get a protective order, restraining order, and solve this issue. That $500 fine, they can take it to a criminal court and get it dismissed like a speeding ticket. Like Your Honor, I took them to CPS, they made an allegation, and we're, here's the paper that they'll dismiss. But if you're like, okay, parent A, why did you withhold? Well, because they're abusing my kid. Okay, what did you do? Well, I let him stay in his room that weekend. I just didn't let him go with parent A. Nope, $500 sticks. See what I'm saying? There's a difference between getting something done and not being proactive and just withholding for no reason.
Ah, okay. So they get to do it right away, not like they telling us here in Canada to go to civil court,
No,
civil court matters,
the police give a ticket right there and
right
tell
there.
that parent to go take care of it. Now it puts the burden of proof on that parent to go get, if they're withholding for no reason, and most of them are withholding for no reason. If you had a reason, they could go get a protective order, restraining order right away.
Oh, okay. So do our police officers need to get educated on that? Or, you know, like is the
No,
law
No, as soon as the law has to go through the legislature first, and
okay?
then once it passes, then it'll be able to be implemented. But right now, the police, all they can do is tell you is go to civil court and go in front of a judge again. But you already have an order in front of a judge. Why do you need to go get another one? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
It makes no sense. And so that's why it becomes criminal at that point, kind of like when nobody pays child support. You get a child support order in family court, and if somebody's not doing it, they'll eventually get arrested. Is that how it works in Canada?
It's supposed to, but we
Okay.
don't.
And then let's just say another one is a protective order, restraining order. If you get one of those in family court and you're not supposed to be dealing with each other, and let's just say parent A goes over to parent B's house after that protective order's in fort or done in family court, You call the cops, and they're going to come and arrest somebody for interfering with, or not even interfering with, violating that court order.
So once the police arrest the one parent that's alienating, sorry, and then they come out and then they get to have the children back. What if they start seeking revenge? How do we work that one? Because I mean, already alienation is a revengeful tactic, but because they were
So,
arrested.
so if they're withholding, think about it this way. Why would you want to get arrested on the third one rather than turning the children over? Because what's going to happen? You're going to go to jail and your children are still going to go with that parent. Why would you still withhold? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
It makes no sense. So more
It,
than likely what's going to happen is someone may push it to that point, but if it's going to be the same outcome and the outcome decides on you, whether if you want to be at your house or in jail, which are you going to choose? But the kids are going.
right,
Okay.
right. Wow, that's it's such a touchy situation for everyone involved.
But it's not, if you think about it, because it's only the problem with the alienating parent.
Right,
That's the only issue in all this.
right. That's what I meant with them, that everybody has to tiptoe around the alienating parent, right?
Not anymore. Not if
Not
that law goes
anymore.
through. Now
Right,
the alienating parent's going to have to figure out some other way to try to wiggle out.
right. And that's good because maybe it might get them some help too to realize that, hey, I was hurting my kid.
Right.
Like I took the kid's love away from a good mom or a good dad. Everybody needs healing. Just because they've been divorced, separated, it's not the child's fault, but they're using the child to get to the other parent because that's the only thing that'll stop that alienating parent. Not stop, but it'll gut them. It's worse than living death. I lost a child at birth and I got closure with her. But to lose living children for 20 years daily, it hurts. I mean, it puts a health issue to everyone involved. I mean, that's why you see so many sick parents that are fighting for their children. Some of them commit suicide because they can't handle the pain. I mean, this three-strike law will eliminate a lot of that heartache that we are going through. And it's not just parents, it's grandparents too, right?
Right. Well, the three strikes is what it's meant to do is stop the bad behavior. If you're
Mhm.
withholding for a real reason, it's meant to protect you. There is no downside to the three strikes law. It protects protective parents and it stops the abuse with someone that's being a bad parent. It stops the bad behavior. And hopefully it will stop the bad behavior before it starts. Now, if you think about it right now, you're not going to wait until, let's just say you get your kid on Friday. You're not going to wait until Friday at 3 o'clock to withhold them if you're a protective parent. You're going to be very proactive from the time that they've dropped him off the week prior, because if you have every first, third, and fifth, now you have almost 10 days to get that child help or get a protective order, restraining order. You're just being vindictive if you're waiting until 3 o'clock, that child gets out of school, and then you're withholding them.
Exactly. Exactly. There's motives to them,
Correct.
right? And it just, then they, all these unnecessary phone calls to the police. The kids are being
Right.
weaponized again. The police are weaponized. We need to eliminate that because it's a lot of taxpayers' money that are going out to senseless things. Our most important is the best interest of the children. And, they want to see that transaction in a good way. They don't want to see someone standing there with a gun saying, drive on. We don't want you to take the kids, just leave, sort of thing, right? Because this is what a lot of it's happening. There's so many injuries and deaths related
Well,
to.
here's the thing now, as I told you, it stops the behavior in a week. Something's going to happen in a week, and you don't have to go back to family court. The other thing it does is if, let's just say you and I are parents, and I call the cops because you're not allowing me to see the kids, the policeman's going to come and say, you know, hey, Mary, are you going to give the kids over? You say no. And then he's like, okay, no problem. Here's your ticket. Bye-bye. Kids don't see any arguing, bickering. You did what you needed to do. You held the kids, and for, let's just say you're being a protective parent, and then I have to leave because, you know, and then you take that ticket to criminal court, and you're like, hey, I took the kids to Child Protective Services after this. They made statements. Here's where I did it. The judge is going to dismiss it. End of story. And then the judge will probably give you a protective order, restraining order based on whatever the allegations were. So at that point, you got everything done that you needed to do because you're a protective parent. Right now, in the law, they'll arrest you the first time that you withhold for a
Good,
felony.
good. It'll, teach them a lesson. And this is what we've been waiting for, because how many times are kids held against us? I mean, every time you hear a parent crying that they sat there for 2-3 hours waiting for their kids for pickup. No one
Right,
shows.
right.
It's
It-
heartbreaking.
This is only going to take 3 times and it's done.
And then after the third time,
The parent withholding gets arrested.
for how long do you think? Like, what kind of, is it criminal?
It's criminal, and it's totally up to the judge.
Okay, okay.
We
So
don't
it's
take the judge's discretion. We just do what happens. And it's the same thing in the States. If somebody has a DWI, which is driving while intoxicated, you get 1 strike, 2 strikes, and the third strikes, that misdemeanor's elevated to a felony.
right on. Okay.
And they take their
All right.
license, they take everything away. So I think this is the new way of stopping this type of behavior, is a stair step which protects both parents and the
Mhm.
child. It doesn't make the cop go out there and say, okay, I'm going to arrest you on the first time, and kids, you're going with, you know, parent B. That's not going to happen anymore. Now it's just like, okay, no problem. It's going to be very civil. Here's your ticket. Bye-bye. Done.
Okay, so what about in the courtroom with the lawyers? Would they literally have to sit down and make sure that both parents are treated equally?
No, that's
No?
not that's not their job. Lawyers, their job is to get whoever they're representing the most they can get. And that's the problem that we have.
And so what should we do, like parenting plans and all that?
You know, I have laws or bills that would solve a lot of this stuff. So a lot of the problems that we're having is, well, first of all, even after you get a court order, you know, people are making false allegations to get the upper hand in court, to get that court order. And then after they get the court order, then they're not giving the child over and interfering with child custody. So those are 2 things that need to be fixed right away. So even if you have 50-50 custody, all you have to do is make a false allegation or interfere with someone's custody, and that custody goes to 0. So these 2 laws, the 3 strikes law and the time taken, time back, are the most 2 the important ones that you can put in family court right now. Now, back up a little bit, and if you have issues with the judge and the judge is friends with opposing counsel, or they got them elected, or some crazy stuff's going on there, they're best friends, then cameras in the courtroom will help you amazing, because once you go off the record, there is no record of what's being said. That's where most of the crazy stuff happens. And so if you're appealing something that happened or turning a judge into what we have here, a higher court that reprimands them, it's called the SCJC. And they reprimand, that's where you write your grievance if you have a problem with a judge. The problem with that SCJC, and they have that same thing in every state, it's just called different. It's where you report the judge's bad behavior, and they can reprimand them publicly or privately. We amended the bill because we found and did some research that all of the complaints that were being sent to the SCJC, less than 1% were being reprimanded as far as the judges go. So now we wrote a bill to put 7 citizens on that committee, because that committee is nothing but lawyers and judges, and most of the time it's their friends, because it's the same state. So now there's 7 citizens that will be on that board to see all of these complaints. And now when a complaint is valid, there is no more private reprimand. They're all public reprimand. This is how you fix the system. You add more accountability and transparency.
The citizens you're talking about, would that be the community or professionals?
No, these are just regular citizens. I actually, when I was talking in front of the Senate about this bill, I told them I volunteer to be one of those first citizens. They kind of chuckled about it, but they know if I'm on that board, it's on. Like, we're going to find where these problems are.
Yeah, we have a committee as well with the community, with Canada Court Watch, with Vernon Beck. He does all our legislative writing, and he's been a great asset to the alienated parents out here in Canada, because we need people to help write legislative laws, and letters to our premier, the attorney generals, because a lot of times parents get off track and send too much info, and we're basically there just to get cameras in the court, shared parenting, and help with the parenting plan, because that is in the best interest of the children if they got a parent that does show that no alienating tactics versus to someone that has the alienating tactics. So these plans we do is a great asset for judges, because they could just go down the list and say, oh, they could pinpoint who's doing what with the kids, right?
Right. Now, I can tell you, cameras in the courtroom, a lot of people think that it's public. It's not. When we say cameras in the courtroom, we're talking about audio, video recording from the time that the judge gets there till the time everyone leaves. And it's everything. That way there's no ex parte communications. That means opposing counsel talking to judge off and on the record. Everything is on the record. So when you appeal the case, the appellate court can get a hold of that video or audio and say, okay. And the other thing is, if the judge tells you to sit down, right? On the transcript, it says sit down. But if they're shaking their fist at you and standing up and yelling at you, telling you to sit down and pointing at you, that's very different than sit down.
Mm-hmm.
Transcript, it just says sit down. It doesn't say how emotional the judge was or anything else. But that video and audio, we could just rewind it and show this type of bad behavior in the courtroom. And that's why that's so important. And the other people think that it's public. It is not public. It is only for the litigants, the attorneys, and for the appellate court. That is the only people that get a copy of that video or audio.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, it's important to see what really goes on, because like you said, the transcripts can be altered. I know my transcripts were, a lot of it was taken out, ... which means that someone's talking, but there's no words on the transcript. So if you had an audio recording there, nothing would be deleted from it, and you would be able to say, hey, no, you said this. Why am I being punished for that? So, it is for our own records, because it's so overwhelming to be in a family courtroom with sometimes you're in there and you don't want to be there, right? It's not always a parent that wants to go to divorce court. It might be the other one. Right. So you're forced into something, and you're so nervous that you're not even hearing half of what goes on. You're trying, but it's so overwhelming.
Yeah, you can't comprehend it. It's like you have amnesia, like it's like you're in a dream, because you have to think you're in flight or fight mode. And it's almost like being in a car wreck while it's happening in real time, except this car wreck is your trial or your hearing, and your kid's life are on the line, and so is yours, especially if an allegation is egregious enough. So you're literally in this fight or flight, your adrenaline's going, and by the time you walk out of there, you have these gaps of amnesia, even though you were present, that you don't know what happened. So that video is very crucial. That way you understand, and you can rewind the tape and say, okay, I did make a mistake here. I didn't say this, or someone did say this, and I just don't remember it, and whatever else. Like, that video also helps when you're trying, if you're pro se and you're trying to enter in a proposed order of what the judge said to sign off on, you need something to go by instead of your notes, because you can take wrong notes. The only get a transcript, but then if that transcript person put ... in there on something that the judge said because they couldn't supposedly hear them, but that audio and video would have caught it. So it just keeps everybody, it makes this whole system transparent and accountable. And I promise you, a lot of this stuff, these bad behaviors of what's going on, will stop.
Yes, exactly. Because I was on a court watch the other night, and everybody was on their best behavior, but you could always see too the opposing counsel turning red with anger, trying to hold himself back. But you know what? It gives them, it's teaching them how to control themselves too, instead of yelling out to intimidate that other parent, especially when they're pro se, because I know they attack pro se litigants much worse than they do attacking their lawyers if they had one. Right? Because they have to be more respectful to each other, but who's to say they have to be respectful to the other parent? So, I mean, it is such a good thing to have in the courtrooms. And I did an interview with our Attorney General, Doug Downey. I mean, he doesn't believe in cameras in the court. And I'm thinking, it's important, because all these judges way back when were saying that, transparency and accountability, and to have court cameras in the court is so important. Yet they were taking it out slowly and slowly, because we had cameras in the court in Canada. We need to bring it back.
Yeah, it needs to be open and transparent, but I understand where they're trying to protect juveniles and stuff, or kids that are in family court. Most of the time, that information is not even being talked about. Most of the time, it's about their parents, going at each other for whatever reasons. So most of the time, the kids' stuff isn't really even talked about. The other thing that a judge can do, and I know this for a fact because I've talked to plenty of judges, they actually have a button in front of their thing that they're already audio and video recorded. So if somebody jumps that thing and comes and attacks a judge, I guarantee you they have it on video, because there's a capability in the courtroom. When the judge asks opposing counsel to come up to the front, you see them go like this, because they're pressing a button that stops all the audio from being recorded on that audio video, and they're able to talk to them one-on-one. Does that make sense?
Yes.
They can actually mute that recording, because it's recording now, like, whatever they're doing. It's just that we don't have access to that. With this cameras in the courtroom, we'll have access to that.
Yeah, there'll be no hiding, nothing.
So here's the solution. If they already have that button, press the button when a juvenile is being talked about. Before anything like that is, just press the button.
Right.
Done.
Oh, I just lost you. I'm not sure what happened. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that last part of it? Sorry?
Yeah. So all a judge has to do when there's any kind of vital information, a social security number or anything like that, is press the button and then say it, and then let go of the button and just keep talking. Now nobody has any crucial information, and all it is just an awareness to the judge that before they announce something to do with the child, that whether it's a name or their social or anything like that, just press the button and hold it. Done.
Right. Yeah, if they don't want the child anything released, I mean, that's
Done.
They have that right to do that. We're not there to look for the child, to make our kids public. We want our kids protected at all times. It's what we are dealing with the other parent, that we are needing to keep notes, because we can't keep up with all the allegations, and like the false allegations. And when you have so many, this is the great piece of tool for us to hear what we, because after hearing 10 of them, you're already like, oh, you're giving your head a shake. But when you're starting to hear 20, 30, 40, 50 false allegations thrown at you in one time, how do you keep track of it? Cameras in the courtroom, you know,
Right.
audio
So you can
recording.
just rewind it. And
Yeah,
if somebody made a false allegation against you, you could bring it in next time and say, look, judge, or if the second time, you know, if they say, well, I didn't say that you harmed the kid, I just said that they said it. You're like, 1 second,
yeah,
rewind the tape, say, and they say it right there. And you can show the judge, no, they specifically said I did it and that not the child said it. So you can use it in your own courts when you show that people have perjured themselves.
right. And then that way the courts can move on to another issue and another issue instead
Correct.
of harping on the same thing over and over. And we're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for this,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
So, okay, to take time taken back.
Huh? So that passed unanimous, bipartisan the first time, and the governor signed off on it in Texas. And so what that does, I think we had talked about it, touched on it a little bit. When you go through a false allegation, and that allegations there is no finding of abuse or neglect, when they return the child, they shall return the time. That's where all of this started, because I went through 43 plus false allegations. They always gave me my children back, but they never gave me the time back. So now I wrote this bill, it went through, it's a law now in Texas. And so now when somebody goes through a false allegation, they'll return that time and the same type of time. And so it disincentivizes making false allegation, because the biggest travesty to all this, the 43 times that I went through it, it was, yes, that me and my children went through this, but it also took resources away from Child Protective Services investigating false allegations when they could have investigating real allegations.
Oh, excuse me. So does that mean that the other parent lost time and you got their time?
No. So when I went through it, that's the whole reason for the bill, is because they didn't give me my time back. They always gave me my children back, said, here you go, water under the bridge. We did it by precaution. Okay, no fire here. Here you go. Here's your children back. That just incentivized her to keep doing it. And that's why it happened 43 times, was over 16 years, is because there was no repercussions for it and there was no drawbacks. So now when somebody does that in Texas, when they give that child back, they're going to return the time and the same type of time. So if you hijack their Christmas, you're going to miss 2 in a row. You take spring breaks, you're going to miss 2 in a row. Now,
Okay.
and then, so after I passed that in Texas, I had an advocate that was in North Dakota that wanted the same law. So we did the same thing there, except we added double the time back. So now there's penalties for it. In Texas, you just give the time back. So there's really no win or loss. Now,
Right.
North Dakota, we passed it, but we did double the time. So now there's a penalty for it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot to take away from
Yes.
a child, right?
Yeah. So when I did that, my ex stopped making false allegations and started interfering with my child custody. And that's why I did the 3 strikes law. And then the judge took so long to rule on the case. And I looked into a lot of a lot of state law, and the judge really doesn't have a time limit on a set hard stop on when to rule on a case. They have some recommendations, but not a hard, like everything in law has a hard stop to give evidence, to file things, whatever. There's always a hard stop, except for a judge to rule. So now I came out with a 10-day rule for judges, and I've talked to plenty of judges all over the nation too. A lot of judges rule immediately or within 2 or 3 days. And that is what they're supposed to do. So now I gave them 10 days to rule on the case after that bill passes in each state. Because what did you have to eat last Monday for lunch? No
Don't
clue,
know.
right?
No
Exactly.
clue.
and you only had 3 meals in between those, a judge sees 10 to 15 cases a day. They can't
Hmm.
possibly remember what yours was 10 business days ago. No way.
No
That's
way.
why this is such a good bill, is because it makes them rule literally right then, or within that time frame. But they can't go beyond 10 days. So justice delayed is justice denied, is what that one's called.
So that's justice delayed, justice denied. Okay.
Yeah,
I
it's
was
a
just
10.
going to ask about that one. So that's what it is. Okay. So
Yeah,
that means you don't have to wait 6 months for the next court case, court
correct.
date to harp on that, dwell on that
Correct.
allegation, right? It's done, over
Yep.
with.
And
Don't
then I
do it
have
again.
another one for reimbursement of fees when parental alienation is found.
That's my
And
next
so
one. Yeah.
And that one's amazing because it's the lawyers that are teaching these litigants how to play these games. They're saying, oh, just withhold, just make up an allegation. It gives us the upper hand. They don't prosecute for perjury. Nobody's got in trouble for it. Nobody does anything to false allegations. Now, that's an alienating behavior. False allegations are alienating behaviors, interfering with your child custody, gatekeeping, brainwashing. All these things are bad mouthing. They're all alienating behaviors. If this is found to be you, then after this law passes, it's going to make you pay for all of the fees, opposing counsel's fees. It's going to make you pay for the therapist, the psych eval, the home study. If there was any of these things, now you're on the hook for all of them. And it's going to stop the bad behavior before it starts, because if that happened, let's just say I was the one that got dinged for this. I'm going to turn to my attorney and say, you got to give me all my money back so I can pay these people because you're the one that told me how to do this. Or I'm going to turn that attorney into the bar, say that they're the ones that taught me how to do this, and throw him under the bus. That's going to stop these behaviors before it starts. And that's what's going to change the system. These parents don't go into court knowing how to do this. They do
Right.
it because somebody taught them.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, some of the court cases that I've read, and people are I said, you did that? No. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't even think of doing that. So these are
Yeah.
coming from, lawyers who know the system and know how to screw the other parent and take time away from the children and the relationship and give it all to, because their main concern is their client. The children are not their client. The children are their pawns, right?
Correct. That's what I
It's
was telling you at the first. It wouldn't matter because they're there to get as much as they can, as fast as they can.
great. Wow.
And
Good.
I have a saying for that. It's twist the truth and you twist justice. Weaponize lies and you become the abuser.
Exactly. Exactly. Because they're projecting the abuse, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
most of the time, if you have to make up lies and twist the truth, you have no case. If the other parent was so bad, why would you have to do these things? That's
Right.
because you're the abuser.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So the Family Rights and Due Process Act.
That one's amazing. That one is a very strong bill, because what's happening right now is that nobody's prosecuting for perjury or false allegations. They're just not doing it, even though it's a felony in all states. In Texas, I don't know, or in all states in the US. I don't know about Canada, but I can't possibly imagine that it's okay to commit perjury. But they're not doing anything about it.
Right.
So what this does in all 50 states right now, there's preponderance of evidence, clear and convincing, and beyond a reasonable doubt. Those are the three standards that are in our court system. Our criminal court is clear and convincing and beyond a reasonable doubt. They don't even have preponderance, because preponderance is so low that they don't even allow it in criminal court. They do in family court. Now, to take away or terminate someone's parental rights, you have to have clear and convincing evidence. This is in all 50 states. Clear and convincing, not preponderance. That's the lowest. So why would preponderance of evidence be for everything else in family court? And the way that preponderance is it more true or less true? And when I say that, it's like 50% plus a feather. So if I say, hey, my ex is on drugs, and the judge looks over there and he's like, oh, she's tattooed up a little bit. That sounds more true or less true. Okay, yeah, I believe that. That's why people can get restraining orders, protective orders, make false allegations, and everything else in family court, because it's on the judge literally weighs what you're saying versus is it more true or less true based on what he's seen and whatever else. That bill heightens that standard from preponderance of evidence to clear and convincing. Now, if somebody gets up there and perjures themselves, the judge is going to say, prove it. You make a statement that somebody's whatever, prove it. Now it's not, is it more true or less true? Now it's prove it.
Will that help anybody in their cases, like from 5 to 10 years ago?
If it's still going on, yes.
If it's still going on. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But you'd have to open up another one. And so this is the problems that we're seeing in family court is these issues. The other part is that judges are going on now, unless the law says specifics. So let's just take 50-50 parenting. In Arizona and Idaho right now, they have 50-50. If a judge says, okay, well, I'm going to give parent A all the parental rights and parent B no rights, that's not 50-50. But the law doesn't allow or specifically say that 50-50 means parental rights and parenting time. So they're starting to go off of what the law doesn't say versus the spirit of the law, because when the legislators legislate this, they think when they say 50-50, they mean across the board, possession time and rights. Judges are taking it upon themselves to do whatever they want because it doesn't specifically say. And that's the problem that we're having with our judicial system, is that they're trying to legislate their own laws when the legislators has already done that.
They're making up their own mind on how much time and.
Oh, they can't do that. That's not what the legislators meant when they wrote that.
Right. So basically that's why we say that the judge was unfair, because they gave everything to the one parent and nothing to the other parent.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what's going on. That's pretty, when you have a camera or audio recording, that's where you could catch it and go and do a motion to change it if you had to, right?
So with the laws that they're written, there's so many legal loopholes, and that's why all of my bills are one page. And literally, you can go to my website, copy paste. It's a letter to your legislator saying you want a 10 to 15 minute Zoom call, a background about the bill, and the bill itself. So 3 pages. It's very simple. And then you Zoom me in. I had like 5 Zoom calls this morning with just different legislators all over the country about these different things. And so we're closing those legal loopholes that you had the problems with. Most of the time, these judges are just like, it's like whatever they've been taught is what they're doing.
Right.
So they really haven't even read the law. When you read the law and you understand the law, then that's different. I've written over 450 bills amending 9 laws in each state. And in doing so, I've learned a ton of it. And so this is why I can see all these legal loopholes and see why what happened to you happened to you. And most of the time it was you were beaten by procedure because you couldn't get your evidence in because of the way that the rules of evidence are. So it's not that the judge did anything to you. It's just that it's the way the system's set up is for you to lose as a pro se litigant and to be weaponized unless you know all the stuff that a lawyer does.
Right, exactly.
A lawyer can run circles around you, but what's going to happen now with cameras in the courtroom, they're going to not be able to play those dirty games and twist those truths and stuff like that, because now they know it's on camera and it's being recorded, and you can show where they twisted those words or where they said whatever it was. I mean, I've been in courtrooms where they were talking about giving a child medicine, and they were trying to say that, let's just, I hate using mom and dads as an example, but let's just say dad was saying mom wasn't giving the child medicine. So when the lawyer got up there, he was just like, well, isn't it true that, you didn't give the medicine? And she was like, yeah, I gave the child the medicine. And isn't it true that, you don't like giving the child medicine? Well, I don't like giving her medicine, no. And he's like, oh, okay, so wouldn't it be true that you're putting the child in harm by not giving her medicine? I mean, this line of questioning is crazy. Like I
Twisted.
told you, yeah, they twist it. So, like I said before, if you were really doing something that was harming the child, they wouldn't have to twist truths and lie and make up false allegations.
Right, exactly. Well, we've talked about a lot. How about the child support dual calculation reform?
Yes, that one's amazing because right now in most states they go by an old antiquated calculation, which is if you're the non-custodial, then you're paying 20% of your income for one child and 25% for five. I mean, for the second child, and then it's 5% every child after that. That's a big issue because they're not taking both parents' calculation of what they make. So we're having a big problem with that all across the board. So what that dual calculation does, it takes into account both parents. That way the child actually has the same standard of living at both homes or equal to. And so that's the big issue with that child support with the dual calculation. And it also calculates the difference. If one parent has 30 days difference, why am I paying $1,000 a month for 30 days difference? That comes to about $500 a day. Why am I paying $500 a day for, I'd rather take my child. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're fighting for 50-50, it's like, why would you be penalized for wanting that child? And so it's just, it evens out the calculation that's going on now.
Well, that's good because the reason why all this happens is because people don't want to pay child support. They don't want to pay spousal support. So they, fall into these, I'm not going to pay you nothing sort of deal.
Yeah. So right now, I pay child support. My ex sold her company for $80 million. I'm paying child support, even though I make 100,000. And that's a big issue. But you know what? Instead of spending the time going back to family court to fight this, I'm just changing the law for everyone not to be in this situation also.
Mm-hmm.
I still have to take care of, $1,800 that I send to her a month. But then also in the same effect, I still have to take care of my child when she comes to my house. So I'm
Right.
taking care of almost two homes, but I rather change the law rather than spend the time of just trying to figure this mess out because it's the same thing that everyone's going through.
Right. That's what yeah. It's worldwide.
Yeah.
Okay, so have we missed anything that you do, Robert? Wow, like there's so much that you
There's
do for millions out there.
Yeah, there's all that. And then I also just came to Toronto, Canada, and participated at
Conference.
yes, there was a conference for Parental Alienation Study Group. And
Mm-hmm.
so I spoke about legislation there that we could pass to help Canadians not go through what you're going through.
Right. I was going to be there, but I broke my leg and couldn't travel. You're only 30 minutes from my home, so I'm glad that you came out to meet us Canadians that did go. So,
Yeah, there was quite a few international people there. They were from all over the world actually. So
yeah,
it was a
yeah.
neat conference. Yeah.
I followed everything that went on, and it's good to see that the US, the UK, like we all, Canada, are there together to help because it is a global pandemic. I mean, what
It
happens
is.
in Canada happens in the States or the UK, Australia. it's no different. The court system is all tied into one, so the rules are the same. So why can't we pass these bills all across the board, right?
Yeah.
And that way it just, families could be families again, whether it's in one home or two homes. You
Right.
know, it needs to, we need to make our kids healthy again, whole, because it's all about the kids. They lose half of themselves when they lose a parent.
So there are statistics out there that show that when either parent, mom or dad, falls below 40%, it puts that child at risk for alcoholism, teen pregnancy, high school dropout, incarceration. That's why we're seeing a lot of these problems, school shooters. This is the problem that we're seeing with all these issues. Now, the family court, when you have standard possession is about 29% to one parent. Expanded standard is about 39% to one parent. That still falls below that 40% threshold. The problems that we have with our youth right now is because we've been sentencing, the family courts have been sentencing to our children to being at risk for the last 50 years. This is the issues that we're having. You can't have a strong nation without strong families. We need to get a new start at equality implemented and stop messing around with people's custody and make sure that that child has the best life with both parents.
That's
We
right.
got to stop. We got to stop weaponizing these parents against each other in family court for profit. You
That's right.
just need to just do the right thing, and I think whoever promotes the parent the most should have the most custody. So instead of you going into a family court and it's like throwing mud at each other, it's like, what have you done to make sure that this other parent's in their life? Oh, here's all the documentation where I gave them notice on the doctors. Here's where I noticed them on the school. Here's where I gave them, the appointments that we had. That's what you should be able to show in family court, not this other stuff.
Right. And
We're
if you
going
have
about
a
it the
judge,
wrong way.
well, exactly. And if you have a judge who says that he's looking to see which parent promotes the best interest in the children, each other should be a light for them instead of saying it, but gives the alienating parent the child, knowing that they're not going to promote. That's
Yep.
a big issue as well. So, why would a judge do that, knowing that a parent is going to alienate the child?
Correct.
So this is the most important things for us to watch out for when we're in the family courts, on the judge's language as well, because the judge's language can be so overwhelming, and they may sound sarcastic or they may sound serious, but they're doing the opposite of what they're really telling us.
Yeah.
And if we can show them that we are there to do the best interest of the child. Like, say you got a parent that stopped the kid from doing music lessons after they get them, but yet the other parent that put them into music lessons is getting trashed for spending their money onto the kids. I
Right.
mean, isn't that in the best interest of the child to show them their creative art side, where the other parent, because they're looking at the money that they don't want to pay, because on their time they're going to have to pay that school for the kids to
Right.
dance or music, but yet the targeted parent would do anything to keep the kids in those activities.
Right. Yep.
So that's a difference between two houses, one parent who will do it and the other parent who won't.
It's usually the nicer parent that gets alienated all the time.
Right.
They're the ones that will let go. And there's a Bible thing. I think it was they were going to cut the child in half with the two moms. Do you remember that
Yes.
Bible
Yes.
verse? And so the real mom let the child go and said, "Look, don't cut the child in half. Like, give it to her." She
Yeah.
rather let the child go than split that child. And that's what parents are doing right now when they're alienating a child. They're splitting that child.
It's what I had to do. I had to step back from my kids so that they didn't get harmed anymore because of the language they were giving me. They were 17, 18, and 15. So they were teenagers and they really needed a mom. but the communication was so horrid that I thought, you know what? I don't need to listen to you guys talk like that because it's hurting them. They've
Yeah.
never spoken to me like that before. And now they're sounding like the alienating parent. You don't get to see the kids. If you leave me, I'll kill you. Well, this is how the kids were talking. You left us, so you need to die. And
Quote for
this is,
that one too. Yeah.
so they're mentally, emotionally, and psychologically brainwashed, abused. They're enmeshed. And millions of kids are like that because you hear them on social media saying that their mom or their dad did this, this, and this, and this. And they're making fun of the parent. And they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s. I mean, this has been going on for decades, right?
Yep.
So we need to stop that. We need to have normal kids so that the future of their children will be better. Because our generations are getting worse and worse.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. So we met the hour mark here.
Yep. I do have a quote for that one. The alienator's megaphone is the child's mouth.
Exactly. When we alienated parents can hear it, that it's not the child telling us, it's the alienating parent that's telling us through
I
the
have a meme
child.
I have a meme that's I made with it, and it has a parent whispering into the child's ear, and then the child yelling at the other parent with the megaphone what they were saying. Yeah.
Exactly. And I collected all my conversations with my kids, and after 18 years I was brought to trial, so I took it to trial with me to say, look, this is what you guys are allowing our kids to fall into. Stop the alienating parent right on the day one. If anybody badmouths a parent, you know there's going to be a lot of harm done to the kids.
Yeah. If they're this bad in court, imagine when all these professionals are not around.
Exactly. Exactly. You know,
Yeah.
the wool over the eyes. Yeah.
Yep.
So, Robert, thank you so much. Wow, it's a lot of information out there, and we're so glad that you can come step into our world here too to help us Canadians because we need a lot of help. And the more we can join you and everybody else to, continue this process, we can't give up. We cannot give up anymore. We've come too far. We've proven a lot. We've lost a lot of lives. We have a lot of damaged kids out there.
Yep.
We need to, get them help. Is there help for them later on in life? Like, what do we do?
Therapy is about the only thing. These are generational chains. The only way that you can break alienation this way is when the child wakes up. I would say if you're going through alienation, and so the other parent doesn't turn those text messages or make them feel bad about it, send them emojis, send them a heart emoji on their birthday, send them a little birthday cake emoji. Don't send them things that require a response if you're able to text message them. So that you just want them to know that you're thinking about them without requiring that response, so they don't feel bad if they don't respond. And those emojis are what they speak now. And so send one over, with flowers or whatever, St. Patrick's Day, just send them, a little clover or something. But just so they know that you're still thinking about them, those little bits and crumbs will help them come back when they do wake up and they know that you've been thinking about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got to send my kids last night a happy Thanksgiving here in Canada. Last night we had our
Yep. And same thing again, I would just send them a turkey. Instead of saying happy Thanksgiving, I just would have sent them a turkey. Just
actually,
because it's like, happy Thanksgiving requires a thank you or you too. A turkey
right.
doesn't require anything.
Yeah, that's true. So I just said, thinking of you,
Yeah.
Mom. I mean, what
Yeah.
else can I say? So we learn to adapt from going from big to little, small steps. I mean, I was alienated from my dad for 40 years. I know what it felt like to find him on his deathbed. It hurt. I don't want my kids to find me there either. or any other parent. They don't want their child to find them dead, or, because it'll break the kid even further, knowing that they'll never be able to see that parent again. Once you're alienated, it's a huge transition to the kids, a huge, I know, I've been there. So I know my steps. I try not to overstep it, and I help parents do the same thing, but I could never imagine losing my children when they were little. That, that's heartbreaking. When they're teenagers, they're going to fly the coop eventually, right?
Yep.
So it was easier for me to let go, but not really let go. So I'm still here to help people worldwide. And, I have grandchildren. I've never got to meet them yet. And I'm hoping that we could do something soon so I can have a relationship with them.
Yeah, one day you will.
One day. But thank you, Robert, so much. And maybe we could get you back later on to see how these bills are going to be working with us here in Canada. It's always nice to get updates.
Yeah, if anyone wants to know anything about the bills, you can go to robertgarza.us or go to my Facebook page. That's where I share a lot of the reels, and those reels show senators, House reps, the Bar Association, a bunch of other people talking about those bills that I'm proposing literally in 1 to 2 minutes. And you can see how important these bills are with lawyers talking about them, judges talking about them. So just go there.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you again. Alienated parents, grandparents, children out there, reach out to Robert Garza. If you have any questions, go to his website, and, we can make a difference together here in Canada, in the US, the UK. We all need each other. So until next time, thank you, everyone. And remember, our children love us. They do love us. They just are not allowed to. Until then, we'll see you next time. Thank you, Robert.
Yep. Have a good day.
You too.